Hi everyone, Mrs. Kruger here, and today we're going to talk about composting. So what is compost? Compost is an organic blend of kitchen scraps and yard scraps that break down naturally, and you can add them to your garden at a later time. Adding compost to your plants and garden is a great way to introduce beneficial microorganisms and to cut down the amount of chemical fertilizers that you might need to use to help grow your plants. Additionally, composting helps reduce the amount of trash that ends up in landfills since you're recycling food scraps for later use. Before you begin composting, it's important to think of what type of receptacle you'd like to use. I found this really inexpensive option on Amazon. It came in separate pieces and took some time to put together, but it works well for my gardening purposes. You can also make natural composting bins on the ground, and I'll show you how to do that later on in this video. It's important to know what is okay to add to your composting pile and what you should never add. You can add things like crushed eggshells, coffee grounds or tea leaves, plant or flower clippings as long as the plants aren't diseased, fruit and vegetable scraps, straw, or even shredded newspaper and cardboard. You want to make sure you never add meat products, dairy, or anything that contains oil, fat, or grease to your compost pile or bin, as this can attract flies or unwanted animals. I've been saving up kitchen scraps for quite a while I was waiting for my composting bin to come in from Amazon. It's important to make sure you chop up your kitchen scraps finely, as it helps the decomposition process. I ended up adding garlic and onions to my composting bin. I have read in some places that this could repel worms, but I'm thinking since I'm keeping my compost in a bin and separate off the ground, I might be okay here. You want to make sure that you add a good balance of nitrogen-rich products along with carbon-rich products. Nitrogen-rich products include green items such as kitchen scraps or fresh yard clippings from your lawn or plants, and then carbon-rich products would be the brown items such as straw or even leaves from outside, pine needles, and so on. So anything that's dried. You want to have about 1/3 green to 2/3 brown products. This balance should help to cut down on any odors that might otherwise occur from the decomposition process. If you notice that your compost pile is smelling, it might not be a bad idea to go ahead and add some more brown items. Spinning the bin helps to aerate the items that are inside and helps to cut down on anaerobic bacteria, which can stink. Next, I'm going to show you how I'm building a compost bin out of scraps that I found around my yard. I started out by hammering in these stakes and then piling a couple of boards up just to keep the compost from blowing into my garden. Ideally, as the compost pile grows, I'll build the sides up a little bit further and add stakes and boards to the other side to keep everything well contained. Next, I'll begin by laying out the base of the pile. I'm laying out some branches, but you could also use straw and twigs. This helps to keep the pile raised above the ground a little bit, and this elevation will allow some airflow to get through. After your base is situated, you'll want to start adding your layers. It's a good idea to alternate brown, carbon-rich layers with green layers. And you can even add in layers of soil to help bring in microorganisms to your pile. I clearly have some work to do with my base, but at least it's a good start. You'll want to make sure that you add water to your pile from time to time. The moisture helps with the microorganisms inside and also helps with the decomposition process. You might notice that your pile will get warm. This means that the microorganisms are doing a really great job at breaking down all the materials inside. You'll want to make sure you also aerate your compost pile by turning it about once a week. This can mean stirring it with a large stick or even using a large garden fork. You might notice worms crawling in and out of your compost pile, and that's perfectly okay. Worms help with the decomposition process, and worm casts are actually really great for your plants as they're rich in all the materials that plants need to thrive. I've seen people get really creative with their outdoor homemade composting bins. People have used wood pallets, chicken wire, or even large tree branches to build their compost bin. It's great to use recycled materials if you can. You'll know your compost is ready to add to your garden or houseplants when it looks like this. It's light and fluffy and has a nice earthy smell to it. You can go ahead and add it right around your plants or if you haven't gardened yet, you can till it into your soil. Soon enough, you'll have healthy, happy plants, and you can feel really good about the fact that you've reduced waste that's going into landfills. It's always important to do your own research and make sure you're composting in a way that works for you. Happy composting!